My rich boyfriend declared that since he paid for my education, he owned my career and could decide whether I worked or not. When I got a job without his approval, he shut down my car insurance and smirked. Now try getting to work. At his company's big investor meeting, I took the mic and announced, "Let's talk about the laws he's been breaking." I met Ryan during my second year of college in New York. He was everything I wasn't: rich, confident, and completely sure of himself. We met at a party in Manhattan, one of those expensive rooftop places where I had no business being, but my friend dragged me along. He spotted me near the bar, made some smooth comment about my dress, and by the end of the night, he was offering to drive me home in his ridiculous luxury car. I should have known then. The way he carried himself, the way he talked about money like it was a game. But when you're young and drowning in student debt, and a guy like that shows interest in you, it's easy to ignore the warning signs. Ryan liked to talk about how hard he worked for his success. But the truth? His family was loaded. He ran a company, sure, but it wasn't something he built from the ground up. It was handed to him, and he just kept it running. He wasn't a genius businessman. He was a guy with unlimited resources and no real consequences. After a few months of dating, Ryan started paying for things. First, little things: dinners, gas, groceries when I was struggling. Then it got bigger. My rent, my car insurance, and finally, my tuition. I resisted at first. I had student loans, but I wasn't helpless. Still, Ryan insisted. He made it sound like a favor. "I believe in you," he'd say. "You shouldn't have to stress about money." I let myself believe he was just being generous. But generosity has no strings. And Ryan's gifts? They were shackles. "You don't need to work. I take care of you." It wasn't obvious at first. I still had my independence, at least I thought I did. But then little things started happening. If I talked about getting a job, he'd laugh it off. "Why? I already take care of everything." If I mentioned paying him back, he'd shake his head. "You're my girlfriend. You don't owe me anything." But then graduation came. And suddenly, everything changed. I was excited to finally start working. I had lined up interviews. I had a plan. But Ryan? He had a different idea. "You don't need to work," he told me one night over dinner in his penthouse. "I'll take care of you. You can just relax, enjoy life." It wasn't a suggestion. It was an expectation. That was the first time I really saw it. He didn't see me as his girlfriend. He saw me as an investment. Something he owned. I told him I still wanted to work. That having a career was important to me. That it wasn't about money, it was about my independence. Ryan just smiled like he knew something I didn't. A few days later, I got a rejection email from a company I had been excited about. It didn't make sense. I had aced the interview. Then another rejection. And another. I knew something was wrong. So I checked my email outbox. And there it was. Emails to recruiters, from my account, telling them I had reconsidered and was no longer interested in the positions. Ryan. I confronted him immediately. He didn't even deny it. He just shrugged. "I was just helping you," he said. "I don't want you to stress about work." "You had no right." "Of course I did," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I paid for your education. I own your career. I should have a say in what you do." I don't know what shocked me more, the words themselves or how casually he said them. That was when I realized. This wasn't love. This wasn't care. This was control. "Now try getting to work." I told him I was getting a job whether he liked it or not. He just smirked. The next morning, I got an email from my car insurance provider. My policy had been canceled. I checked my bank account. The money he had sent me each month, gone. My savings weren't enough to keep up with rent, bills, everything. And then came the final blow. Ryan sat across from me at breakfast, sipping his coffee like nothing had happened. "Now try getting to work," he said. And he smiled. Smiled. Like this was funny to him. Like I was some ungrateful child he had just grounded. I didn't say anything. I didn't react. I just sat there, staring at him. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. He thought he had me trapped. But Ryan made one critical mistake. He forgot who he was dealing with. What Ryan didn't know was that I had already secured a job. I had done it behind his back, through a different email, using a different number. And what he had forgotten. When you live with someone for years, you hear things. You see things. Ryan wasn't just a controlling boyfriend. He was a criminal. He ran his company like his personal playground. I had overheard things, little snippets of conversations, comments he didn't think twice about. The way he moved money around. The way he bragged about creative accounting. And the texts. So many texts. Bragging about skimming off the top. About insider trading. About how the SEC couldn't catch a cold, let alone fraud this sophisticated. He thought he was untouchable. He thought no one could take him down. I spent the next few weeks quietly gathering everything. Screenshots of messages. records of transactions, audio clips of conversations where he practically confessed to fraud. And then, the opportunity one needed fell into my lap. Ryan's company was hosting a massive investor event, a high-profile meeting in Manhattan. Big names. Media. The kind of event where bad press could kill a company overnight. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't just going to leave Ryan. I was going to destroy him. Ryan was too arrogant to see what was coming. I played along for weeks, acting like I had given in. I stopped talking about work. I let him believe he had won. He thought I was finally learning my place, that I was just another accessory to his perfect life. But behind the scenes, I was busy. I moved my important documents to a secure place. Opened a new bank account he didn't know about. Transferred what little savings I had. Found a new apartment, just a small place outside the city. Nothing fancy, but mine. And most importantly, I kept gathering evidence. Ryan was so confident, so used to getting away with everything, that he never covered his tracks. His phone was full of incriminating texts. His laptop, which he always left open, had emails discussing, adjusting the numbers for the upcoming investor meeting. Then I found something even worse. A contract, with my name on it. At first, I didn't understand. But then I read the fine print. Ryan had drawn up a legal agreement, one I had never signed, stating that I was financially dependent on him. That any money he had given me was not a gift, but a loan, to be repaid if our relationship ended. In short, if I left, I would owe him thousands of dollars. My stomach turned. This wasn't just control. This was a trap. But Ryan had no idea I had seen it. And that was his mistake. The night before the event, I made my final move. I sent an anonymous tip to the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. Nothing major, just enough to make them curious. Just enough to make them watch. Then, I got dressed for war. I wore the kind of outfit Ryan loved. Sleek, elegant, a perfect girlfriend on his arm look. He wanted a trophy? Fine. I'd let him think I was one. We arrived at the venue, a high-rise conference center with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Investors were already mingling, drinking champagne, shaking hands. Ryan was in his element, laughing, charming the crowd, completely unaware that I had a plan. I watched him work the room, feeding these people lie after lie, talking about record profits and unmatched growth. He even called himself a visionary at one point. I wanted to laugh, but I had to wait. I stayed quiet as he walked up to the podium, the large screen behind him flashing numbers and graphs. The crowd leaned in, eager to hear the man of the hour. That's when I made my move. Right as he was launching into his speech, I stood up. "Excuse me," I said, my voice carrying through the hall. "Before you invest another dime, let's talk about the laws Ryan has been breaking." The room went dead silent. Ryan's head snapped toward me, his expression frozen in a mask of disbelief. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed, his voice just low enough for only me to hear. I ignored him. I pulled out my phone, hit play, and the room filled with his own words. The audio was crisp and clear. Ryan, bragging about cooking the books. Ryan, laughing about lying to investors. Ryan, admitting to insider trading. Gasps rippled through the audience. A few people immediately reached for their phones. Ryan's face turned gray. "You little," I held up a hand. "Let's not forget the emails." I cast my screen to the large projector behind him. And suddenly, the whole room was staring at his own messages. The one where he told his finance team to adjust the numbers. The one where he admitted to moving company funds into his personal account. The one where he mocked regulators, calling them too slow and too stupid to catch him. A few investors stood up and left without another word. Then someone, I don't even know who, murmured, "This is fraud." Ryan lunged toward me, grabbing my wrist. His fingers dug in, hard enough to hurt. His voice was low and shaking with rage. "You don't know what you've just done." I yanked my arm free and smiled. "Actually, Ryan, I do." And that's when security walked in. Ryan must have thought he could smooth this over. He always did. But what he didn't realize, the SEC was already here. That small tip I sent? They took it very seriously. And the second they heard the word fraud, they acted fast. Two men in suits stepped forward, flashing their badges. "Ryan, we need you to come with us." His mask finally cracked. His whole body stiffened, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. "This is ridiculous," he snapped, but his voice was shaking. He turned to one of the investors, some billionaire he had been schmoozing all night. "Tell them this is a mistake." The man just stared at him, disgusted. Ryan was done. He knew it. I knew it. The whole room knew it. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, his phone buzzed. I knew what that meant before he even looked at the screen. Because I had made one last move. I had called his bank. Well, Technically, I had called someone very interested in his offshore accounts. And now, they were frozen. His company's assets? Frozen. His personal fortune? Locked down. Ryan was trapped. I watched as he looked at the notification. And for the first time since I met him, I saw something new in his eyes. Panic. Not anger. Not smug amusement. Actual, real fear. I turned to leave. But before I could step away, he grabbed my arm again, his fingers bruising my skin. "This isn't over," he hissed. His voice was low, desperate. And there it was, his last mistake. Because now, I wasn't just taking his company. I was taking everything. Ryan's grip on my arm was so tight I could feel my pulse against his fingers. His eyes, wild, desperate, were locked onto mine, like he could will me into fixing this for him. But I just smiled. "This isn't over," he spat. I leaned in just enough so only he could hear. "Oh, sweetheart," I whispered. "It's just getting started." And then I pulled my arm free. Ryan turned back to the SEC agents, to the investors, to the cameras that were now pointed directly at him. His hands curled into fists as he tried to regain control, but it was too late. Security escorted him out of the building. Not handcuffed, yet, but humiliated. His perfect suit wrinkled, his face pale. He kept glancing at his phone, refreshing his banking app, his panic growing with every second. I stood there and watched as the walls of his perfect little empire started to crack. But I wasn't done yet. I had planned for everything, the SEC, the financial freezes, the investor backlash. But there was one thing I hadn't accounted for. Ryan had enemies. And I had just wounded him. The problem? When a predator is bleeding, the other predators smell it. And they come running. That night, after the chaos had settled, I went back to my new apartment. A tiny one-bedroom outside of Manhattan, nothing special, but it was mine. No security cameras monitoring my movements. No staff reporting back to Ryan. Just freedom. Or so I thought. Because at exactly 2:37 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something in my gut told me to pick up. I did. And the voice on the other end? Calm. Too calm. "You made a big mistake tonight." I sat up straight. "Who is this?" A slow chuckle. Male. Deep voice. "You think Ryan was bad," the man said. "You just burned him. And now, we're all watching to see where the pieces fall. Hope you're ready for what comes next." Click. The line went dead. My hands were shaking. I checked my door. Locked. Windows. Locked. I wasn't safe. Ryan had always acted like he was untouchable. But the second his empire crumbled, the sharks came circling. And now? I had just made myself their new favorite target. The next morning, I took the subway to work. I had a job now, a real one. My first step toward an actual life without Ryan. But when I stepped out of the station, I saw it. A black car. Parked across the street. Tinted windows. Not moving. At first, I ignored it. New York was full of expensive cars. But then I saw it again. At lunch. And again, when I left work. I wasn't being paranoid. Someone was watching me. I walked faster, my heart pounding. My apartment was only a few blocks away. I ducked into an alley, trying to lose them. When I peeked back onto the main street, the car was gone. But then, a man in a suit was standing at my door. Waiting. My blood turned to ice. He saw me. Smiled. I backed away. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Running won't help. We should talk. I turned and ran anyway. For 3 days, the car followed me. The man at my door showed up twice more. And then, Ryan's name hit the news. Fraud. Investigation. Imminent arrest. That's when my phone rang again. Ryan. I stared at his name on my screen. I should have ignored it. But something told me I needed to hear this. So I picked up. "You're not safe," he said immediately. His voice was low, hoarse, nothing like the confident, smug Ryan I had known. I almost laughed. "Oh, so now you care? You don't get it." His voice was shaking. "This goes higher than me. You thought I was bad? The people I answer to? They don't forgive. They don't forget." Cold fear dripped down my spine. "Who are they?" I demanded. Ryan hesitated. Then, just as he started to speak, a crash. A shout. The line went dead. I froze. I tried calling him back. Straight to voicemail. I turned on the news. And there it was. Ryan had been taken. Not by the police. Not by the SEC. But by someone else. And now, the person they wanted? Was me. I packed a bag. Left my apartment. I wasn't stupid. I had watched enough crime documentaries to know what happened next. Ryan was powerful. But the people behind him? They were monsters. And now? I had made myself their new problem. I didn't know how this would end. But I knew one thing. I had taken Ryan down. And now, it was my turn to run. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I moved constantly, switching locations every few days. I used cash, stayed in cheap motels, and kept my phone turned off. But no matter where I went, I felt them watching. Ryan was gone. And I was next. I had thought I was dismantling his empire. I had thought I was exposing his corruption. But now I understood. I had poked something bigger. Something deeper. Ryan had bosses. People who let him play his little CEO games while they ran the real business behind the scenes. And I had dragged them into the light. That was my real mistake. And now? They wanted to erase it. Erase me. It was in a small diner outside of Boston, 3 weeks after Ryan vanished, that I got my final warning. I was drinking coffee, eyes darting to the door every time it opened, when a man slid into the booth across from me. Gray suit. Black gloves. No expression. I froze. He folded his hands on the table and said, "Enough." Just that. One word. My heart slammed against my ribs. "You've done enough," he continued, his voice steady. "Ryan's gone. The company is dismantled. The SEC has what they need. You wanted revenge? You got it." He leaned forward slightly. "But if you keep pushing, if you try to dig deeper, we bury you." I forced myself to meet his eyes. "Who are you?" He smiled, slow and cold. "Someone who keeps problems contained." Then he slid something across the table. "A plane ticket. Out of the country. One way. Take the deal," he said. "Disappear. Or you won't like what happens next." Then he stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked out. I sat there, staring at the ticket. And for the first time since this started, I felt real fear. Because this wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. I could have left. I should have left. But something inside me refused. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stupidity. Maybe it was the fact that Ryan had controlled my life for years, and now, these people thought they could do the same. I wasn't running anymore. If they wanted me to disappear, there was a reason. And I needed to know why. So I made a choice. I went back to New York. Back to the city where it all started. Straight into the fire. I didn't go to my old apartment. That was compromised. Instead, I went to the one person who might still be on my side. Ryan's former business partner, David Carter. David had been Ryan's right-hand man, but the two had a falling out months before the scandal. Ryan had cut him out, erased his name from everything. And if anyone had a reason to hate Ryan as much as I did, it was him. I found him in a small office in Brooklyn, running some low-level investment firm, trying to rebuild his reputation. The moment he saw me, his face went white. "You need to leave," he said. I stepped inside anyway. "Not until you tell me what's really going on." David sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "Jesus Christ. I knew you'd do this." "Do what?" He gave me a look. "Keep digging." Then, finally, he told me the truth. Ryan's company? The fraud? The money laundering? It was just a piece of something much bigger. Because behind it all, behind the fake stocks, the offshore accounts, the shell corporations, was a network. Politicians. CEOs. Law enforcement. People in power, moving money in the shadows. Covering for each other. Eliminating threats. Ryan was just a puppet. A cocky, reckless, stupid puppet who thought he was the one pulling the strings. But he got sloppy, David said. Started bragging. Started leaving a trail. And I had lit a match right next to that trail. "You think you took Ryan down?" David shook his head. "You just exposed the tip of the iceberg." I swallowed hard. "So now they want me gone." He exhaled. "If they don't need to kill you, they won't. But if you push any further," I nodded, understanding. "If I kept digging, I wouldn't just end up dead. I'd disappear without a trace." David gave me a burner phone and an address. "A safe house," he said. "Stay there. Stay quiet. Let this blow over." I took the phone. Took the address. Then I did something stupid. I went to see Ryan. He was being held in a high-security detention center. No visitors. No lawyers. Just waiting. But I had a name. A contact. Someone who owed David a favor. And the next morning, I was sitting across from Ryan in a cold, gray interrogation room. He looked hollow. Sunken eyes. Hands trembling. I expected him to be angry. To threaten me. But instead, he just laughed. A broken, bitter laugh. "You really don't know when to stop," he said. I didn't respond. Ryan leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. "You think you won?" His eyes locked onto mine. "You have no idea what you've done." I swallowed. "Then tell me." His smile faded. "You think they're just gonna let you walk away?" He leaned forward. "They'll let you think you're safe. That you're free. But someday, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll wake up and it'll be over." He tilted his head. "They don't forget. And they don't forgive." A chill ran down my spine. For the first time, I wondered if I had made a mistake. I left the prison knowing one thing. I couldn't keep fighting. Not against them. So I took David's advice. I went to the safe house. Stayed quiet. Weeks passed. Then months. No more black cars. No more phone calls. It was like they had decided I wasn't worth the effort. Maybe they believed I had learned my lesson. Or maybe they were just waiting. But eventually, I started over. A new city. A new name. A new life. I built something for myself for the first time. But even now, even years later, I still check my mirrors. I still watch for shadows. Because Ryan was right. They don't forget. And they don't forgive. Was it worth it? Maybe. Maybe not. But at least now, I belong to no one. And that's enough.